What is happening, guys? ChrisMintyG here, and today I have something incredibly special for you. This is Sander Wojciech's. I apologize if I butcher your name. I'm not too familiar with Dutch names, but this is his 7th place Offenbach Germany Regionals deck profile. I wasn't able to import it into PTCGO. I don't know why. Maybe it was just too spicy that the import system just could not handle it. So I'm going to be doing it on the Decklist app available on Android. I'm not too sure about iPhone. But regardless, let's get into this Decklist and basically explain why it's a thing. And something you probably should be aware of going into your next event. So starting off, we have 3 copies of the Celestial Storm Onyx. 100 HP Screech during your next turn. Your opponent's defending Pokemon takes 20 more damage from attacks. Completely irrelevant because it does not attack. It is there to evolve into the Celestial Storm Steelix. 190 HP on a Stage 1 non-GX is phenomenally high. 2 energy or a DCE, tackle for 30. A steel and a DCE. Tail Crush will get you 80 plus 40 if you manage to hit the heads off the coin flip. But again, it is not there to attack, it is there to stall your opponent out, because thanks to it not being an EX-GX, they do not get Choice Band to help you take out this 190 HP monstrosity. So most decks, nay if not all decks in the format, cannot effectively knock this out without a really uneven price exchange like a GX attack or something like that. So this presented a lot of problems for a lot of opponents, that they just could not deal with this. It just sat there for turns on end, stalling your opponent out, and yeah, it was absolutely wild. Partnering it, we have a lot of other stally cards, namely the Wailord. 220 HP, sorry, on a non-EX-GX Stage 1 is also catastrophically high. It is, however, weak to grass, which can present a problem given that Delmise and Vika Ray and the Bulu himself are played quite frequently in the meta right now. So Wailord's longevity isn't always guaranteed. That's why it is only a one-off in the deck, because he said this was for the Dusk main Necrozma deck, because it is able to hit 190 without any sort of strain on resources or anything. So this is your Steelix for that matchup, because they can't really hit 220 HP. The GX attack is never a thing because you never pick up prizes, so it's irrelevant, to be honest. So the Wailord is there for that matchup. Against anything else, you don't really play it. You just play Steelix. So, partnering those two big, beefy Stage 1s is the Hoopa. We all know about this card, how effective it is in a stall deck. It has lost its power since even after rotation, but simply in this meta, because every single deck is playing a non-EX-GX attacker, because they have to trade evenly with the Shrine decks. So Hoopa, yeah, against some matchups, yeah, if your opponent just does not have the out, then it's game, basically, because you don't need to put anything else down, so they can't Guzma around it. They have to sort of just sit there, letting Hoopa do his thing and stall out resources. But against most of the meta, that's why it's not a 4-0, but against most of the meta, this card is pretty meh. It just depends how much out your opponent has to it, I guess. You can sort of put yourself in a position where you out their outs, and Hoopa just saves the day. But Hoopa is not as good as he used to be, but he is a 2-of in this deck. Partnering them is the 1 copy of the Fairy Tapu Lele. He said that Vika Ray is actually a difficult matchup, so I actually do believe Psywave does some damage. It actually does, it actually does look to attack with it, and obviously Magical Swap is a fantastic attack, but not as relevant in here because, as I say, you don't really look to attack. But Psywave, I think, is there to take down Vika Rays, because they can accelerate energy onto the board with no problems, no matter how much disruption you have. So you really just need an out to take out the Rayquaza to really take momentum off your opponent's board and force them into having to sit there and just poke in the Steelix while you heal and heal and heal. Articuno GX is the only non-EX GX in the deck, and it is there simply because of Cold Crush GX. Discard all energy from both active Pokemon. You do play ways to attack with this card, and obviously the other energy, when you put it on, it'll count as a water energy, so you can use Legendary Ascent. When you place Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, during your turn you may switch it with your active Pokemon, and if you do any number of water energy from the other Pokemon onto this Pokemon. So Cold Crush GX is again for those decks that can accelerate energy and not really die to your heavy disruption. So Cold Crush GX, same with Tabby probably against the Vigorray matchup, comes in, discards all the energy, so they can't really deal with the Steelixes or the Wailords if the matchup is relevant. So Articuno is a really solid card for its attack, and of course the out to mill decks, the Orangaroo, Resource Management, put 3 cards from your discard pile to the bottom of your deck in any order. Against other stall decks you have this, so you can outstall them, I guess, which sounds horrible, but against the decks that have the Orangaroo, I'm not 200% how to pronounce that, I say it different times, but the monkey, when your opponent has one, you can have one too, so you just get into those scenarios where when it's the right time to use Resource Management, you use it, and just make sure you have outs for your opponent, because this card really prevents the mill strategy from taking full effect. So that's the Pokemon 14, very modest line, and for the trainers there is a lot, as you would imagine. 4 copies of Cynthia for the draw cards, just to see all your combo pieces and disruption cards. 1 copy of Gladian in case some key cards are prized, you can't really cope with that, so Gladian lets you get them straight from the prizes into your hand. 2 copies of Plumeria, thanks to the loss of Team Skull Grunt. Plumeria is the way to discard energy. Basic or special, it doesn't matter. You just take off the energy and go off, and your opponent can't really do much about it. So that's just a really good card. 1 copycat. This card I think is actually insane in this deck, because your opponent is not going to put very many cards down, because you're just going to discard them in disruption, so they're going to hold on to a lot of cards, which just means copycat becomes an absolute blowout. If you're running low on resources, you need to see a lot of cards quickly, but also if your opponent doesn't hold a lot of cards in their hands and you're in the risk of milling yourself out or stalling yourself out, copycat comes in to put your big massive hand back in and give you very little, so it just means you can survive the mill strategy. You don't lose to it yourself, even if you've decided to be a bit aggressive or first time playing it or whatever, but he obviously played it because it is a way to really punish your opponent for holding on the cards. Imagine that. The main card of the deck, Steven's Resolve. He said this is both your starter card, your engine card, your combo extender, all in one. Why use Sylveon Magical Ribbon when you can just use Steven's Resolve every single turn? This searches everything that you need, your Steelixes, your disruption cards, your combo pieces. Just having this every single turn is phenomenal, and like I said, it just means that you can create this resource divide your opponent cannot handle, and you win out from there. 1 Team Skull Grunt, same as the Sylveon deck list I covered on Tuesday. Your opponent is going to hold on to their energy because they just don't want to lose it to an enhanced hammer. They can save it maybe if they can go for a push, but Team Skull Grunt just goes, nah, don't think so. I know you're holding on to those energies, so I'm going to take them, which is just, it's just really unhealthy that you get punished for playing your energy and you get punished for if you don't play your energy, which is just ridiculous. 1 copy of Pokemon Fan Club, because in case you really just need the basics down ASAP, you're in a risk of it getting dunked. Pokemon Fan Club just puts down the Whalmers or the Onyxes that you need, Hoopas, etc. to set up, and then you can Steven's Resolve from there and just win out. 1 copy of Looker, something to be aware of because Looker has insane synergy with the Orangaroo Monkey. As you say, you put 3 cards from your discard pile to the bottom of your deck in any order. Looker comes in and takes those 3 cards that you put back in straight into your hand next turn, provided your opponent hasn't judged you or whatever and messed up the bottom of your deck. But this little thing going is kind of like a niche Steven's Resolve that doesn't end your turn, but it takes 2 turns to set up. So just be aware of that when you're playing the deck. This is not just a shit high or anything like that. This is actually a realistic way to search your cards and keep going. One copy of Guzma, same reason that you play it in the Sylveon deck, not to actually gust the wind out problematic Pokemon to knock out and take prizes. You Guzma out stuff like Macargo, the stuff with really high retreat, that your opponent, because no float stone, so you Guzma out that and your opponent just can't do it, because they can do even less than they could before. So the one copy Guzma is really important to have. One copy of Tate and Liza, because the switch effects and obviously the shuffle and draw. This is another way how you can survive not having to deck yourself out. If you have a hand size of 20, 25 plus, etc., or anything like that, you can Tate and Liza, put them all back in, and your opponent basically just looks at you hopeless, and they don't really know what to do from there. One copy of Luzamania's card is disgusting in male decks, because it just lets them loop their supporters and just basically make sure they never run out of cards, because Luzamine add back Judge or Tate and Liza or stuff like that, and another Luzamine. So, and then you do the Judge, put the Luzamine back in, and then you just do this loop forever and ever and ever. That just means that you never stall, or you never mill yourself out. Luzamine is a very pretty design card, but in here it shines like a diamond. 3 copies of Acerola, just when your opponent thinks they're about to knock out Steelix and really get yourself going. Nope, scoop it back up, present that Onyx, evolve up to Steelix again. It's just a nightmare for your opponent to deal with. This is the whole point of the deck, just to make sure Steelix never dies, your opponent never takes prizes, or well, not even never takes, just they're never going to take 6, which is their win condition, because they're not going to be in the deck out strategy. So Acerola just comes in to make sure that doesn't happen. 3 copies of Enhanced Hammer, because why flip a coin? You just discard the special energy, which is played in an abundance this format. Unit Energy, Rainbow Energy, Beast Energy, DCE, the list goes on. So Enhanced Hammer is live in near enough all matchups, bar the Vikaray matchup that he even admitted is quite a hard matchup to deal with. But 1 Enhanced Hammer, 1 Acrobike. I'm not too sure why this is. There must be a card that I'm overlooking that maybe puts cards to the top and not called Macargo. Or maybe you literally just need to see it. It's maybe his 60th card. Just another way to see your resources without committing to the supporter. So 1 Acrobike. 2 copies of Crushing Hammer against stuff like Vikaray, or stuff that plays enough basic energy to put onto the active Pokemon to start attacking. So stuff like Zoroark Lycanroc or Zoroark Pod with their Grass and Fighting respectively. Crushing Hammer just means that you can still take energy off your opponent without having to commit to the Plumeria, but it does mean you have to get the coin flip, which is not always a guarantee. 2 copies of Nest Ball, same reason as Fan Club, to put down Onyxes, because you need to create that Steelix loop of having 2 Onyx down. Steelix is about to get knocked out, Acerola it up, present the Onyx from last turn, evolve up, and just go on and on and on forever and ever and ever. So Nest Ball is important in that respect. 4 copies of Max Potion, same as Acerola, but does not eat your supporter for that turn, so you can still Steven's Resolve or whatever else. As I say, you only play 2 energy, which I'll get to near the end of the deck profile. So Max Potion is just another way to really say, nope mate, you're not taking 6 prizes. So 4 copies of Max Potion, 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher. Surprise is not played at more, but maybe there is just so much prize denial that this rarely comes up. Just having that way to put the Steelix line back in, plus maybe Oranguru, which is the main target for it, because that's how you loop with Oranguru. But like I said, I thought this card would be a 2 of, in all honesty, but I guess with Gladion that prizing it is never an issue, and they're not going to play Lysander Prism Star to banish it or remove it from the game. Sorry, my Yu-Gi-Oh head is talking there. So 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher, 2 copies of Counter Catcher, same as Guzma. This is another thing you have to be wary of on the other side of the field, that if you do eventually take a prize, that just makes your opponent's Counter Catchers live. So do not be putting down stuff with really high retreat unless you absolutely have to, because it means they're just going to Counter Catcher out that Pokemon and stall you out. So you're just basically giving your opponent another win condition. Sometimes if you're playing this deck, you can even let your opponent take that prize, i.e. you have the Acerola or the Max Potion, but they have a Macargo out, so you'll let the Steelix die, present out another Steelix or an Onyx, Counter Catcher out to Macargo, and then go about your business as you were before. So 2 copies of Counter Catcher. The thing that's really annoying about the deck, 1 or 2 copies of Metal Frying Pan. The metal Pokemon this card is attached to, i.e. Steelix, takes 30 less damage from your opponent's attack. So if you thought Steelix was hard to knock out before, it was even harder to knock out now, thanks to this non-sticking of Frying Pan, or Drying Pan, whichever you prefer if you're Brock. So it just makes Steelix even harder to knock out. And another way to make Steelix even harder to knock out, or the Wheel Lord, is Bodybuilding Dumbbells. Field Blower is played as a one-off maximum in decks this format, so Bodybuilding Dumbbells is near enough a cert because you can search up a Steven's Resolve, so it turns Steelix into 230 HP, or it turns Wheel Lord into 260 HP. Nothing is knocking that out ever. So Bodybuilding Dumbbells is just an insane card. Then you do play Stadiums to get back with Lizamine as well. 1 copy of Brook the Hill gets you your Whalmers. So yeah, that must be really important in the Dustmane matchup for him to play. 1 copy of Brooklet Hill. Don't think they're. Oh yes, sorry, the Onyxes as well. So yeah, that makes more sense. Brooklet Hill as a one-off. Then 2 copies of Shrine of Punishment, just to put your opponent on the clock. Actually makes you be able to pick up prizes if your opponent can't out this, which is always good. It's always nice to have. So 2 Shrine of Punishment, not 4 because it's not the main strategy of the deck. And as I mentioned earlier, he is playing Energy. He is playing 1 copy of Rainbow Energy. I would imagine this is for the Cold Crush. Or you can put it on to the Tapu Lele. Then you can knock it, or try to knock out the Rayquaza. He doesn't play Choice Band, so it would be needing Shrine of Punishment to put enough damage on your opponent's Rayquaza, and then you can smash into it with the Tapu Lele Fairy knockout, and then you can go into Crow Crush GX to disarm another Rayquaza, or any other card that you can't really disrupt, that your opponent has acceleration, stuff like Malamar. So this just gives access to Cold Crush GX and 1 copy of Counter Energy. Again, maybe to give access to Magical Swap, because you do play Shrine, something I overlooked earlier in the deck profile. So Counter Catcher gives you access to Magical Swap. It makes basically another copy of Rainbow Energy onto the Tapu Lele. And upon reading it, it can be attached to Articuno when it comes down with Legendary Ascent, because you have to attach it to an EXGX, but does not mean if it ends up being attached to an EXGX via Legendary Ascent. So Counter Catcher can stay onto the Articuno, which gives you access to its other attack. I'm not too sure even what it is. 130 HP, very, very, very rarely it'll come up, but you can actually do it, so I guess that's kind of nice. So that's the deck list, guys. This is actually really fun to talk about, and this is my first impression of the deck. I've never actually seen the list before. I literally just imported it, and I was going to talk about it from scratch. So I hope it did the deck some justice. Hope you really enjoyed the explanations, and if you have anything to add, please leave it in the comments, and I will answer back, or I will give it a thumbs up to say thank you for adding to the video. But well done to Sander. 7 plates was such an original deck list. This is definitely something to think about. Maybe not playing because it does have a target on its back now. But it's definitely something you should be wary of if you're going into your next event. Just have outs for it, because people will just pick up a deck at the top and play it from now on. So as I say, I hope you enjoyed the deck list. Please check out the rest of our videos. Comment, rate, subscribe. Check us out next time, guys.